Hello everyone, welcome to Southern New Hampshire University's Introduction to Religions of the World videocast series. This is your instructor again. This video is to close out Module 3 and open up Module 4 on Judaism. As you can probably hear, I am very under the weather. I'm not, I get this terrible head cold, so I'm going to power through this. But I apologize if anything is unclear or inaudible. So, I brought you here to this video from the announcement in order to explain a sentiment that I think kind of helps us explain the problem of evil and maybe get a little bit closer to a solution to the problem in ways that we couldn't before. Whenever I engage in discussions like these, it's all too easy, I think, to sink deeper and deeper into the problematic parts of the problem of evil. Not only because it's a difficult problem to start, but when you start talking about God in the context of suffering, human suffering, and whether or not he has the ability to alleviate that suffering, it starts to anthropomorphize God a little bit too much. Now, I don't mean to say that God doesn't have the ability to stop suffering, of course. But when we talk about it and we question why he doesn't, why can't he help, all these kinds of things, I think we can't help but begin to picture God in real time, watching horrible things happen only to do nothing. And it's the picture thinking about God, as I call it, that I think tends to cast him in a light of a Zeus-like Superman. He's up there, watching down on all of us. It gives him human qualities and creates in us the false supposition about what the Christian doctrine actually says God really is. So, in the end, this false notion of God seems to contribute to the problem of evil, even more than the problem itself does on its own. And consequently, I think the answer is a philosophically and theologically rigorous and mature view that that may help us to begin to solve the problem. So, I want to share something with you, and this is a thought experiment that I came up with a few years back, and I think it does two things. First, it helps us clarify what Christianity says God really is. Not that all Christians do in fact think of God in this way, though they ought to if they want to remain consistent with their own traditions. Second, it helps us navigate the problem of evil by helping us reimagine God in a way more consistent with a theologically and philosophically sound perspective. So here's the scenario. Imagine that, well, say 20 people, maybe the class of 20 of us, are going to go out to a restaurant and we're all going to have a good time. And we're talking, we're eating, and of course, some people are drinking. By the end of the night, everybody that we're out with is completely drunk, falling down, can't stand up, just totally trashed, okay? But me, of course, being the instructor and the responsible one, has been elected to drive a party bus. And because of that, I have remained sober. So we're all out together, I'm sober, and you are all drunk. Okay. As you stumble out into the parking lot, I, the sober driver, grab one person by the hand and hold that person up, okay? And then another drunk person grabs onto that person to hold themselves up. And then another person holds onto that person, and another person holds onto that one, and everybody starts kind of holding on to each other just to stay up because you're all drunk and falling over. And then me, the sober guy, I slowly shuffle to the other end of the chain and grab the last person. Now I've got a drunk person over here, I got a drunk person over here, and I'm a link. I'm a sober link in this chain of drunk people. Okay? Now, why have I used the analogy of drunk people? Well, I'm supporting you by being sober here. Okay? So what happens is, if the sober person lets go, me, everybody falls down. Okay? But if one drunk person falls for whatever reason, if he lets go or she lets go, and everybody else can hold on, everyone's going to stay up because I am the one that is providing the support for the whole group. Okay? So if one drunk person falls, the whole system can still stay up. But if I fall down, if I trip and fall, everybody's going down because there's no support. Okay, now you've got the scenario down. Here's the question. Who's God in this scenario? Seems like a pretty easy question to answer, right? What I expect you're thinking is that God in the scenario is the sober person. That seems reasonable. But I want you to think again. To envision God as the sober guy is to envision God as simply superhuman. Like us, only better. But this couldn't be further from the truth in the Judeo-Christian tradition. Are you ready for this? The thing that most closely resembles God in this scenario is the parking lot. God is the parking lot. Now, if that shocks you or dismays you or simply confuses you, that's understandable. The basic idea here is that for thinkers in the Judeo-Christian tradition, God is not one being atop a class of beings. On this view, God is being itself. God is pure existence. If you look in the biblical narrative of Moses going up to Mount Sinai and having an experience with God, the burning bush, and he says to God, who should I say has sent me back down to these people with this message? And God responds by saying, tell them that I am has sent you. And in other translations, it's I am that I am, and in other translations, it's I am who am. And what that means is God saying, what I am. If you want to know what I am, I'll tell you what I am. What I am is equivalent to the fact that I am. My essence, what I am, is my existence. That I am. I am that I am. So God is revealing in the biblical narrative that He is pure existence. He is being itself. Now, God is outside of time, outside of space, completely transcendent of the world order, and here's where the parking lot analogy starts to make sense. He is the ground and the ultimate condition for our being here at all. So in the Judeo-Christian tradition, this means that there are two distinct orders of explanation for the existence of the universe. The first is the temporal order, right? So you're here, and everything that's here now is here. You're here because your parents are here because of their parents, and so on and so forth, all the way back to the beginning of the universe. And so you can trace all matter back to the beginning of the universe. Every effect has a cause. But God being eternal and being outside of time provides us with another order of explanation. Okay, there's the temporal order of explanation, cause and effect. But there's also the order of being, where God, in a single act of eternal creation, both creates and sustains the universe from a transcendent eternity. So why do I bring this up? The parking lot analogy, I think, is instructive because when we talk about the problem of evil, or really anything relating to God, I think it becomes easy, it's all too easy, to lose sight of the radical transcendence that the Judeo-Christian tradition wants us to stay focused on. Now, surely, this properly transcendent understanding of God doesn't solve the problem of evil by itself. God is still supposed to be personal and good and powerful and all-knowing, and there is still evil in the world. So that's the problem. But it can, at the very least, begin to fortify the foundations of a solution to the problem. And I urge you as we move forward to keep this concept of God in mind. Keep in mind the idea that God is not a Superman in the Judeo-Christian tradition. God in this tradition is not like a Zeus-like man in space or something. Uh, and it's easy to sort of let yourself get into thinking like that, even if it's just as a means of thinking about the problem of evil or other problems we consider. But the real value in separating oneself from those notions and embracing the radical transcendence that the Judeo-Christian tradition wants to impose on us is that when you do that, when you think like that, it opens up the possibility for a more rational understanding of certain things, perhaps like the problem of evil, that seem to be a little bit more difficult to navigate our way through. So that will conclude this podcast and video cast, and I will see you on the discussion boards.